Hello everyone, this is the lecture for week, I think we're at 8 of English 1010. I got an update on my software where I record everything, so hopefully everything works alright. I was doing some testing. I didn't find the sound very good, so please let me know if you agree with that. If the sound was bad, I'll work with it and maybe even add some closed captioning maybe to make it help, so we'll see what we can do with that. Alright, so it's been a few weeks since we met, because I was sick, so thank you for your patience with that. But as I noted in the announcement last time, um, I was looking at the syllabus and having you turn the review essay in, especially since we didn't have a lecture last time, just really didn't seem fair. So I was going to move that. So let's start with the new syllabus, which is, I did put it on under Start Here. So I'll just click there to show it to you. So updated. I shouldn't put the date actually for that. So the only changes right here, I move review due to the following week. So we'll talk about this week. It's really not that extensive of an essay. Hopefully you'll find it to be a fun essay to do, but we'll have that due the following week. Now the only problem with that is that it makes the next couple essays kind of tight. Fake news, but again, that's kind of a fun essay, I would argue. And then the argument, which you should kind of start on, but again, I have to grade your argument topic / outline anyway. But anyways, so it's going to be, kind of busy, not as busy as my 1020. They have something every week in the second half of the semester. But you guys, it's certainly busy, but not as busy. It's just a lot of essays. All right, so let's go back to the announcement. So your readings this week, actually I'll go back to the syllabus. Summer School, White Fright, and examples of ethos, pathos, and logos. So White Fright is right here. And it's just another essay, again, argumentative. What I'm hoping for you to find is whether or not the essay is, whether it's convincing or not to you. Okay, so let's see what you think about that. Here's another one, Summer School. And I find it interesting, and something actually I just had a conversation with a student about is whether or not in summer school, whether you should go to an actual face-to-face summer class or take an online course. So obviously from this title, this author thinks you should just take an online course. And as you all can agree, I'm sure, there's a lot of good from online courses because you don't have to go anywhere. I'm not saying it's easier, because I don't think it is. Certainly not on my end. And then lastly, examples of ethos, logos, and pathos. You have an assignment that has to do with this, and I will talk about this briefly so you have an idea. But so we'll get to that a little bit later. Those are your reading assignments. Watch this lecture. Submit the secret word by Wednesday, of course. A light week this week, so take advantage of it. So get cracking on these other assignments, I would say. So no discussion board and no quiz, but you do have an assignment. Okay. So before I get into the assignment, let's talk about last 2 weeks, really. Yeah, I didn't bring up. I just realized I didn't do a video last time, so. But I won't bring the essays up. But real quick, the Harry Potter Girl Trouble. What I was looking for, it's an interesting essay. The main thing, what she does, if you notice, if you dissect the essay, the bulk of her argument is Hermione, which is fair because she is a big female character of the books. But everything else was just really weak. To suggest that the thesis is that the Harry Potter books do not have strong female characters. Fine, that's your argument. But a lot of her, a lot of her support just wasn't very strong. And when I discuss this in a face-to-face class, it's really interesting because inevitably I'll find a huge Harry Potter fan, or not even a huge, but a well-versed Harry Potter fan. And they will strongly say, no, that is completely untrue. There are very strong female characters in Harry Potter. And that's kind of the problem with the essay, at no fault of the author. If you pay attention to when it was written, I think she only had read, or it was only, it was written many years ago, or basically the essay was only on the first 3 books. And we're talking about a 7-book series, and now if you include all that other stuff they do, whatever. And that's just it. And that's when I discuss this face to face, it's usually what people tend to say, which is, well, actually, over all 7 books, they do have very strong characters. So what that says to me, and full disclosure, I have not read them all. In fact, I only read the first 2. I thought the first 2 were very formulaic, and I really didn't think much of them. But people have told me, and I having watched some of the movies, I do agree with it, that they do get much better after the third one. Anyway, I digress. Um, but people have said that once you get past the third book, there's a lot of strong female characters, and so that thesis just isn't true anymore. And again, the author was just incorrect, or the support's not there, just because things changed since she wrote the essay. So I think and what I also like about the essay is, people really get tied into Harry Potter, and, oh, why are you attacking this? It's making people read, not making, but helping people read, and et cetera, et cetera, and you know. But the fact is, if they didn't have strong characters, female characters, then it didn't have female characters. And if that is a weakness, it's something that should be addressed. And I would argue it sounds like Rowling did address it. Because this essay, who knows? I have no idea. We'll never know that. But I think it's very interesting, especially the way people react to it. Jingle Bells we'll talk about as well. The John Green thing, again, it was just a real quick blurb. I just want to point that out. Again, just when it comes to communication, I thought his response, if I'm remembering correctly, was actually, for such a harsh accusation. So again, I'm trying to bring it back to me, it's from a few weeks ago. Basically, just some type of troll suggested to the author that he just preys on young girls, and it's like, that's a really harsh accusation that I would not want to have. And like, how do you respond to that? And I always just felt he responded very appropriately, calmly. And actually, I was just on Twitter just today. So just so the New Zealand attack just happened. I guess it was a few days ago. Usually, I'm more well versed on current events than I am not. Again, partly because I'm not feeling well. But for some reason, Chelsea Clinton was attacked. So if you've seen this video, you know what I'm referring to. Someone accused Chelsea, or people like Chelsea, to be the reason for these attacks. And her response, again, I didn't watch it fully. I just read someone's analysis of it. But basically, Chelsea never, she listened. She never got upset, even though some of the things the woman was saying were very hurtful. And that's how you respond well. When you escalate things, when you get upset as well, that's when things tend to get out of hand. So try to stay calm is always the key thing. All right, let's talk about Jingle Bells, because unfortunately we're not going to get to the significance of it a little bit later, which I may mix this up a bit, but we'll see. So I may change up the syllabus, or the schedule rather, a little bit more. Short of the long of it is, with this, actually, let me check one more thing. Okay. What I wanted you to discover from this journal article, so what this woman has established is that Jingle Bells does have roots in blackface in vaudeville performances, if I'm remembering correct. Minstrel, that's the word. And she lays it out. She even does a real thorough explanation of how sleigh rides were used in popular verse. And it's very hard. I mean, it's a very dense article, but that's how journal articles are. The whole point of it is to thoroughly explain things. And again, audience is key. Who was her audience? Well, others of that field in academia. I mean, this was not written for the general populace. Not that the general populace can't read it. They absolutely have every right, and they have, no one's going to stop them do it. But that was not this woman's audience. Her audience were other scholars to inform them about what she has found. Okay? Now, what happens inevitably, and I just think it's hysterical, and it happens a lot in, websites that are dubbed fake news, which we'll eventually get to with your your fake news essay, which is they'll like find these articles and just like find a quote here and there, and then they'll just pervert it. Frankly, they'll pervert what was said in order to like engage whatever who their audience is. Again, we're all writing to a certain audience. And certainly in like fake news type websites, they have their own audience, and all they're trying to do is rile that audience up, and it works. It's sad but true, but it actually works. So we're gonna go through a whole list of how mainstream press has reviewed this particular journal article. So this was a twofold assignment to get you used to academic level essays and how hard they are to read, but also to see how the national media actually reviews or interprets or summarizes something like this. So hopefully you got the gist of it. It's dense. You probably did. So we'll just leave it at that. All right. Last but not least, George Harab. I absolutely adore this speech. Not a fan of the TED Talks just because half the time I think some of the people they pick for TED Talks I don't really consider credible. Quick example, I think this is a class I assigned to Dropout. Elizabeth Holmes did a TED Talk. Elizabeth Holmes is the founder of Theranos, and as it's now known, I mean, she frauded a lot of companies, a lot of people, because she just could not follow through with what she promised, with what her products were doing in terms of healthcare, and it actually caused a lot of harm, I would argue, to a lot of people, besides defrauding a lot of people out of their money. But this is a really good one. I hope you enjoyed it. So even though you didn't have a lecture from me, you had a bit of a lecture from this guy. And he's reinforcing everything that I really emphasize, which is you need to have, there's nothing wrong with skepticism. Here are the main points I want you to remember from this. Number one, there's nothing wrong with skepticism. Skepticism is not pessimism. Pessimism is thinking something will always go wrong, whereas optimism, of course, is things will always go right. Skepticism is something in between. Skepticism is just questioning, will it work? And if I may, let me just verify. I did do the dropout with you guys. Let me make sure. You guys did that. So I'm going to use Theranos as an example. I mean, there were many people in the story of Theranos. Oh, and by the way, there's going to be an HBO showing a documentary on it as well. I feel like I was just watching the 2020 special on the whole Theranos thing. I mean, right now I'm at the point where I'm like, well, I feel like I've heard everything I could about this situation. So I feel like the market has been flooded with the story. But regardless, Theranos was a situation that if there were more skeptics, it wouldn't have gone as far as it did. And it sounds like the powers that be, the people that were heading the company, really bullied people that suggested they are not following through with what they're doing. And that's a different topic altogether. But again, being a skeptic, like the one person I wanted to make sure that you heard about, where he kept on just saying like, this is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and the whole world thinks this woman's a genius, but she's not, and no one's listening to me. That's gonna happen. It's gonna happen times. I mean, like, it's happened to me. I mean, obviously not that level, but there are times where I'm like saying the same thing. No one's listening to me. People that run a company, people that run a department. It's gonna happen, and it's very frustrating. But you gotta just stick to your guns, and and I give the guy credit in the podcast that you listen to. But again, going back to George Harab, you know, that person in particular, I mean, that was his job. He was hired by Walgreens, if you recall, to find out if it worked. Well, he looked in and he's like, no, it doesn't. It does not work. And Walgreens, you know, didn't want to hear it. If you listen to the rest of the podcast, another person that doubted and was a skeptic was actually the grandson of one of the heavy investors. He's a big political guy. I can't remember. I think his last name is Schultz. Um, Again, same thing. I mean, his own grandfather doubted his grandson. He's like, no, Elizabeth tells me this is going to work, and you're wrong, not her. You are. And it's like, but I'm telling you, it doesn't work. I've seen it. I've seen the data. I've seen it in action. It does not work. And people, again, want to believe what they want to believe. Why did I think it was Tyler Schultz? Why did Tyler Schultz's grandfather not believe his grandson? Because he had too much money invested. I mean, if he pulled out, first of all, it'd be a catastrophe. I mean, it ended up being a catastrophe anyway. But it's like, I mean, egos matter. Egos are quite a factor for people. So anyway, the point is, I really like this TED Talk. It's one of the few I like. Because I agree with them. People need to be more skeptical. I mean, every day. I mean, when I read stuff, or people will tell me, "Oh, did you know this happened or that happened?" I'm skeptical. I'm like, "Well, did it really, or did it really happen that way?" I mean, a good example was, I mean, just because there was more to it, not to say that people were innocent or not, but the whole protests between the Native Americans and these kids from a Catholic school um, in Kentucky. I mean, there was just a lot to that story that like just really wasn't reported well. So, but that's again, no one was. I would argue no one was completely innocent in that situation. But anyway, so that was all what I want to talk about last week. I will get to your argument topics. There was a little confusion with that because I got a couple emails that last week before break. I'll catch up with those. If you did not turn it in, I still want them because you need to know what topic you're going to write about. Okay, so that's all last week. Now this week, so like I said, no discussion board, no quiz. Your assignment, well, we'll talk about assignment first. Your assignment this week, read the article examples of ethos, pathos, and logos under reading assignments and write an example of one of them that is not on the webpage. Use our reading materials as examples or from your own experience. So, very quickly, because I don't want to just hand you the answer, but ethos is whether or not the person speaking about it actually has the expertise, whether or not they're credible, and they have just examples. So, and what I'm looking for, I mean, either way, whether or not the credibility is not there or where the credibility is there. Just find an example where they actually get. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Give an example where the credibility is there. I would argue. And again, like one example, there are two types of commercials. You have commercials that are just like really just pull on emotions, or there are ones that really go by facts. So like good examples are mattresses, or a lot of dentistry products. What will they say? Will they say, the famous 4 out of 5 dentists agree this is the toothpaste to use, or whatever the case may be? That would be ethos. Okay, so you can't use that one. But that's an idea. Logos is just sound reasoning, so actual statistics. So again, the one I just cited is a little bit of both, actually. So that's a statistic, and it is from a credible place. I'm going to try to avoid examples because I want you to think of some of your own. And then lastly, pathos, that's where you're doing emotion. Now that can be, to make you feel sympathy, you know, or even humor. So again, think of any beer commercial. You know, they're constantly using humor to get you to like the product. Um, and then sympathy, I think you can think of a couple of commercials out there that do that. But again, feel free to use the reading materials to answer this. And you just got to do one of them. I don't want to, so one ethos or one pathos or one logos. That's all you need to do. All right, so actually now before I forget, let's do the secret word. And I'm going to do the same, actually, just so I don't get confused. I'm going to do the same one from my other class. I'm going to do Phoenix. So I did see the new trailer for the new X-Men movie, and it looks promising. I'm looking forward to it. I like the X-Men. So that'll be Phoenix, Phoenix. That's the secret word for this week. All right. What else to talk about? So last thing is probably your next essay. Excuse me. Told you I'm not 100%. All right, so your next essay, which I did push back, is a review. And it's real simple. I want you to write a review of any book, movie, or TV show. So your choice. So you're not doing a literary analysis, because I don't really do those anymore anyway, but you're reviewing an aspect of the work. You're not evaluating it as art. So the good news is you have the thesis statement already, which is you should or should not read or watch this work. That's it. Okay? So, I'm trying to think of something obscure. Actually, I'm watching a movie from the 80s, Al Pacino. It's called Sea of Love. You know, it's a crime thriller. I haven't finished it yet. But, so honestly, I'm on the fence, but I'd recommend it. But let's say I do like the movie. You know, why would I tell you to like it? Well, because Al Pacino's a fun actor to watch. That's one reason why. And again, that would be one main point of the essay is, you know, this classic Al Pacino, you know, maybe even cite a couple specific scenes that show something. So, other things would be the storyline. So the story was great, had a lot of plot twists, this and that, whatever the case may be. Again, always strive for 3 points. We'll do an outline next week to kind of help you, you know, get it out. So, but yeah, that's what we'll do. So start working on this at least. So for this week, I would argue think of a topic, think what you want to write about. I would say preferably something you really enjoyed or you know was a work of value, meaning it was, you know, it was good. You know there was substance there. Sometimes if you pick something that's too popular, you know, or not popular, but something you like too much, it's very hard to write about. At least some people have had that experience. So that's your next essay assignment. Again, the syllabus originally said due this week. It is not due this week. It is due next week. Okay. And let's see what else. Did I do everything? I think that's it for the week. So I'm catching up on grading. You will get your essays graded soon. In fact, your academic progress is due soon. I'll have it done by then. So I wanted to have that included. So, all right. So that should be it. So any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a good rest of the week. And we'll talk to you later.